The 2nd of February 1912, Volume 10. How the Victim Soul Must Be. This morning, as I offered a soul as victim to Jesus, Jesus accepted the offer and told me, "My daughter, the first thing I want is union of wills. She must give herself prey to my will. She must be the amusement of my volition. I will be very attentive on looking at whether everything she does is connected to my will, especially if it is voluntary. In fact, I will not take into account things which are not voluntary, to the point that when she tells me that she wants to be my victim, I will consider it as not said. Second, to the union with my will, add victim of love. I will be jealous of everything. True love is no longer master of itself, but of the beloved. Third, victim of immolation. She must do everything in the attitude of sacrificing herself for me, even the most indifferent things. To this will add being victim of reparation. She must feel sorrow for everything, repair me for everything, compassionate me in everything. And this will be the fourth thing. If she behaves faithfully in this, then I will be able to accept her as victim of sacrifice, of suffering, of heroism, of consummation. Recommend that she be faithful. If she is faithful, everything is done. And I, yes, she will be faithful, and he, we'll see. End of the reading. The 2nd of February 1917, Volume 11. The world has become unbalanced because it has lost the thought of the passion. As I was in my usual state, I found myself outside of myself, and I found my always lovable Jesus, dripping blood all over with a horrible crown of thorns, looking at me with difficulty through the thorns. He told me, "My daughter, the world has become unbalanced because it has lost the thought of my passion. In darkness it has not found the light of my passion, which would illuminate it by making known to it my love and how much souls cost me, in such a way that it could turn to loving the one who has truly loved it. And the light of my passion, guiding it, would put it on its guard against all dangers. In weakness it has not found the strength of my passion, which would sustain it. In impatience it has not found the mirror of my patience, which would infuse in it calm and resignation in such a way that in the face of my patience, feeling ashamed, it would make it its duty to dominate itself. In pains it has not found the comfort of the pains of a God, which sustaining its pains would infuse in it love of suffering. In sin it has not found my sanctity, which placing itself in front of it would infuse in it hate of sin. Ah, man has made an abuse of everything because he has moved away from the one who could help him. This is why the world has lost balance. It behaved like a child who no longer wanted to recognize his mother, or like a disciple who, denying his master, no longer wanted to listen to his teachings or learn his lessons. What will happen to this child and to this disciple? They will be the sorrow of themselves and the terror and sorrow of society. Such has man become, terror and sorrow, but a sorrow without pity. Ah, man is getting worse and worse, and I cry over him with tears of blood. End of the reading. The 2nd of February 1921, Volume 12. The third fiat must run together with the other two fiats. These three fiats have the same value and power because they contain the creative power. Continuing in my usual state, I was fusing all of myself in the divine volition, and I said to myself, "My Jesus, I want to love you, and I want so much love as to compensate for the love of all generations which have been and which will be. But who can give me so much love as to be able to love for all? My love, in your will there is the creative power. Therefore, in your will, I myself want to create so much love as to compensate for and surpass the love of all, and all that all creatures are obliged to give to God our Father." While I was doing this, I said, "How much nonsense I am saying." And my sweet Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, surely in my will there is the creative power. Billions and billions of stars came out from one single fiat. Billions and billions of acts of grace, which communicate themselves to souls, come out from the fiat mihi of my mama, from which redemption took origin. These acts of grace are more beautiful, more shining, more varied than stars. And while the stars are fixed and do not multiply, the acts of grace are multiplied to infinity. They run in every instant, attract the creatures, delight them, strengthen them, and give them life. Ah, if creatures could see the supernatural order of grace, they would hear such harmonies and would see such an enchanting scene as to believe that that's their paradise. Now the third fiat too must run together with the other two fiats. It must multiply to infinity, and in every instant it must give as many acts for as many acts of grace as are unleashed from my womb, for as many stars, for as many drops of water, and for as many created things as were unleashed by the fiat of creation. It must merge with them and say, "As many acts as you are, so many I do." These three fiats have the same value and power. You disappear. It is I, the fiat, that acts, and therefore you too can say in my omnipotent fiat, "I want to create so much love, so many adorations, so many blessings, so much glory to my God as to compensate for everyone and for everything." Your acts will fill heaven and earth. They will multiply themselves with the acts of creation and of redemption and will become one. All this will seem astonishing and incredible to some. In this case, they would have to doubt about my creative power. And then when it is I who want it and who give this power, every doubt ceases. Am I perhaps not free to do whatever I want and to give to whomever I want? You, be attentive. I will be with you. I will overshadow you with my creative power, and I will accomplish what I want upon you. End of the reading. The 2nd of February 1922, Volume 13. The divine will is seed that multiplies the images of God. So that Jesus may operate in us, it takes highest equality in all of our things. This morning my always lovable Jesus came, all goodness and sweetness. He was carrying a rope around his neck and an instrument in his hand, as if he wanted to do something. Then he removed the rope from his neck and put it around mine. Then he fixed the instrument at the centre of my being, and with a ruler, which he made rotate through a little wheel that was in the centre of that instrument, he measured me all over to see whether he would find all the parts of my person as equal. He was all attentive on looking at whether the ruler, in rotating, would find perfect equality. And as he found it, he heaved a sigh of great contentment, saying, "Had I not found her equal, I could not have accomplished what I want. At any cost I am determined to make of her a portent of grace." Now that little wheel which is in the centre seemed to be a little circled sun, and Jesus gazed at himself within it to see whether his adorable person would appear as whole within that little circle of sun. And since it did appear, all content, he seemed to pray. In the meantime, another little wheel of light descended from heaven, similar to the one which I had in the centre of my person, but without detaching its rays from heaven. They identified with each other, and Jesus impressed them in me with his most holy hands and added, "For now I have made the incision, I have placed the seal, then I will take care of developing what I have done." And he disappeared. I remained dazed, but I don't know what that was. I just understood that in order for Jesus to operate in us, it takes highest equality in all things. Otherwise, he operates at one point of our soul and we destroy at some other point. Unequal things are always annoying, defective, and if one wants to place something on them, there is a risk that the unequal side may let it fall to the ground. A soul who is not always the same, one day wants to do good. She wants to bear everything. Another day she can no longer be recognised. She's indolent, impatient. Therefore one cannot rely on her at all. After this, Jesus came back, and having drawn me into his will, he said to me, "My daughter, as the seed is thrown into the earth makes the seed that was sowed germinate and multiply. My will extends more than earth. It throws the seed of my volition into the souls, and it makes many other images similar to me germinate and multiply. My volition makes my children germinate, and it multiplies them. However, know that the acts done in my will are like the sun. Everyone takes the light, the heat, and the good that the sun contains, nor can anyone prevent someone else from enjoying its goods. Without anyone defrauding anyone else, all enjoy it. All are owners of the sun. Everyone can say, 'The sun is mine.' In the same way, the acts done in my will, more than some, are wanted and demanded by all. The past generations await them, so as to receive the dazzling light of my will over everything they have done. The present ones await them, so as to feel fecundated and invested by this light. The future ones await them as the fulfillment of the good that they will do. In sum, I am my will, and the acts done in my will always go around within the endless wheel of eternity to become life, light, and heat of all." End of the reading. The 2nd of February 1924, Volume 16. The abandonment in the divine will forms the wings in order to fly with the divine volition and to wander around with it in the sphere of eternity, the immense circle of eternity, those who take part in it. Felt very oppressed because of the privation of my sweet Jesus, and for other reasons which it is not necessary to put on paper. And my sweet Jesus, moving in my interior and pressing me to himself to give me strength, for I felt like succumbing, told me, "My daughter, my will is life and motion of everything. But do you know who follows its motion and takes flight in my eternal volition in such a way as to wander around as it does in the sphere of eternity, be wherever it is and do whatever it does? The soul who is completely abandoned in my holy will. The abandonment forms the wings in order to fly together with my will. As abandonment ceases, she loses her flight and her wings are destroyed. Therefore everyone feels the motion, the life of my will, because there is no motion which does not come from me, but they remain in the place at which they are. Only one who has the wings of the abandonment in me and follows the same way as my will, flies over all, both in heaven and on earth, enters the sphere of eternity, wanders around in the midst of the three divine persons, penetrates into their most intimate hiding places, and is aware of their secrets and of their beatitudes. It happens as to an engine, which has the main wheel in the middle and many other smaller wheels around it, which are fixed. As the first wheel moves, all receive motion, but they never arrive at touching the first wheel, nor do they know anything of what it does and of the goods it contains. But there is another small wheel which is not fixed, and through a mechanism it goes around continuously across all the small wheels to be present at each motion of the prime wheel and then to start its round again. Now this moving little wheel knows what is there in the main wheel and takes part in the good it contains. Well then, the first wheel is my will. The fixed small wheels are the souls who are abandoned to themselves, which renders them motionless in good. The moving little wheel is the soul who lives in my will, and the mechanism is her complete abandonment in me. Therefore, each lack of abandonment in me is a round that you lose in the sphere of eternity. If you knew what it means to lose an eternal round. On hearing this, I said, "But tell me, my love, what does eternity mean, and what is this eternal round?" Jesus added, "My daughter, eternity is an immense circle in which one cannot know where it begins or where it ends. In this circle there is God, with no beginning and with no end, in which He possesses infinite happiness, beatitude, joys, riches, beauty, and so on. At each divine motion, which never ceases, He unleashes from this circle of eternity new happiness, new beauty, new beatitudes, and so on. But this new act is never interrupted. Distinct among themselves, our contentments are always new. One is different from the other. Our beatitudes are so great and so many that as we enjoy one, another surprises us continuously, and they never end. They are eternal, immense as we are. And what is eternal has the virtue of making ever new things arise. What is old, repeated things do not exist in what is eternal. But do you know who takes part in heaven in this new act which is never exhausted? Those who will have practiced more good on earth. This good will be like the seed, which will bring them the knowledge of our beatitudes, joys, beauty, love, goodness, and so on. And according to the good which the soul has practiced upon earth, which has some accord with our different beatitudes, she will come closer to us, and in large gulps she will fill herself with that beatitude whose seed she contains, to the point of overflow. She will participate in all that is contained in the circle of eternity, and she will be filled for as many seeds as she has acquired on earth. It will happen as to one who has learned music, a job, or a science. When music is played, many listen and enjoy it, but who understands it? One who feels all those notes of joy or of sorrow penetrate into his intelligence and descend into his heart? Who feels as though filled and sees in act the scene which that music expresses? One who has studied and who's worked hard in order to learn it. The others enjoy but do not understand. Their enjoyment is in the perception of their hearing, but all their interior remains empty. The same is for one who has learned science. Who enjoys more? One who has studied and has worn out his intelligence on books on many scientific things, or one who's only looked at them? Certainly the one who has studied can earn fair profits, can occupy distinct positions. On the other hand, the other can enjoy only with his sight if he sees something related to science. And the same with all other things. If this happens on earth, much more so in heaven, where justice weighs with the scales of love every little good act done by the creature, and places upon that good act an unending happiness, joy, and beauty. Now, what will happen to the soul who's lived in my will, in which all her acts remain like an eternal and divine seed? The circle of eternity will pour upon her so much that the whole celestial Jerusalem will remain stupefied and will make new feasts and will receive new glory. End of the reading. The 2nd of February 1928, Volume 23. How she must make up for those who have not operated in the unity of the divine fiat. How for one who does not possess it, it is a foreign language. The reason why no one has spoken about it until now. How one who does not live in the unity receives the effects from the divine will, not the life of it. Example of the sun. I was continuing my round in the Supreme Fiat, and as I arrived at Eden, I was saying to myself, my Jesus, I make the unity of your will my own, in order to make up for that unity that my father Adam lost when he withdrew from it, and to make up for all those acts that his descendants have not done in the unity of it. But while I was saying this, I thought to myself, and am I in the unity of the divine fiat? If I am not, how can I make up for others? So my speaking ends up in words, but no facts. And my sweet Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, my daughter, when Adam sinned, there was the withdrawal of the unity of my will on both sides. Man withdrew from it, and it withdrew from him. And as my will withdrew, man lost my unity, all of its qualities, and the rights that God had given him in creating him, because he was the true deserter of the kingdom of my will, and a deserter loses all rights and the possession of his very goods. Now, just as my will withdrew from man because he was the one who withdrew first, so can it give itself again to one who, withdrawing from the human volition, enters again into its kingdom as the new conqueror of that unity of my divine fiat. More so, since between you and the divinity there has been a mutual accord, my will, in giving you the great gift of its unity, calling you to the first act of creation, and you, not only in receiving it, but in giving to it the gift of your will. So there has been an exchange on both sides, and not with simple words, but with facts. So much so that my will is making you aware of what regards the great gift it gave you, that you may know what you possess, may enjoy its goods, and appreciating it, may impetrate it for the human family. And you, having given the gift of your will, do not want to recognize it ever again and feel terror, even just in remembering it. Now it is right that you fulfill your duty and make up for that unity lost by man from the time when mind did its withdrawing into the celestial regions. Is my will perhaps not free to give itself again, as long as it finds again one who no longer wants to live of her human will? And besides, you must know that if my will were not present in you, you could not have comprehended its celestial language. It would have been like a foreign dialect for you, like a light without heat, like a food without substance, and it would have been difficult for you to write it on paper in order to transmit it to your brothers. All this is a sign that my will, lording over you in everything, makes itself thought in your mind, word on your lips, heartbeat in your heart. The teacher who knows that his pupil comprehends his lessons and loves to listen to him. Therefore, it is necessary to give you the gift of my divine will, so as to give you the grace necessary in order to make you know and transcribe all the most beautiful prerogatives of the kingdom of my divine fiat. And this is also the reason why no one until now has spoken at length about my will, to make others comprehend the immense seeds of good that it contains and that it wants to give and can give to creatures. At the most, they may have come out with a few words, and with words almost half broken, as if they had nothing to say about my fiat, so long and extensive, that contains and embraces all eternity. Since they did not possess it as gift and as their own thing, the language to speak of the importance of it and of its infinite qualities was as though foreign to all. Since they did not know it in depth, how could they speak of a divine will that contains so much, that all centuries are not enough to speak about it? Therefore, be attentive, my daughter, and while you cross its sea, take always something new, so as to make it known to the human generation. After this, I was thinking about the unity of the divine fiat and was saying to myself, how could all those who have done good, so many great works, do them if they did not possess its unity? And Jesus, always benign, added, my daughter, all the good done until now by creatures has been done by virtue of the effects of my divine will, because there is no good without it. But as for living totally and fully in its unity, none until now, only my Queen Mama. And this is why she drew the great prodigy of the incarnation of the Word. Had there been someone, the earth would have returned to the state of Eden. And then the one who would possess the unity of my will could neither have contained it nor endured without speaking about it. It would have been as if the sun wanted to enclose itself inside a vase of crystal without spreading its rays. Would it not instead crack the grass with its heat so as to be free to spread its rays? To possess the unity of my fiat and not to speak about it and not to spread its rays, the beauty of its knowledges, would have been impossible for her. Her heart would crack if she did not give vent to manifest in part the fullness of its light and of its goods. So good has been done by virtue of the effects of it. The same happens with the sun, that by virtue of the effects that its light contains, makes the plants germinate, makes the earth produce so much good. It seems that the earth and the effects of the sun work together to produce plants, fruits, and flowers for the creatures. But the earth does not rise into the sphere of the sun. If it did so, the sun would have so much strength as to remove the dark side of the earth, and all of its atoms of dust it would convert into light, and the earth would become sun. But since the earth does not rise, nor does the sphere of the sun descend down below, the earth remains earth, and the sun does not transform it into itself. It seems that they look at each other from afar, they help each other, they work together by means of the effects of the light that the sun spreads over the earth from the height of its sphere. But even though the earth receives many admirable effects, produces the most beautiful flowerings, it passes a great distance between the earth and the sun. They do not resemble each other, nor does the life of one become the life of the other, and so the earth is unable to speak about the sun, nor tell all the effects it contains or how much heat and light it possesses. In such condition is the creature who does not possess the unity of my will. She does not rise into its extremely high sphere to become sun, nor does my divine sun descend to form her life. But in wanting to do good, she moves around its light, and my will communicates the effects to make the good that she wants to germinate, because my fiat does not deny itself to anyone. On the contrary, with its light it wakens the human nature to make it turn green again, make it produce fruits of good work. The end of the reading. There are no more readings today.